Okay, picture this. One last desperate act, a harpoon thrown, not just at a whale, but maybe at fate itself.
Yeah, that's the kind of intensity we're getting into today, a real cataclysm.
Exactly. We're diving straight into the final heart-stopping chapters of Herman Melville's Moby Dick, specifically chapters 129 right through to 135, and then the epilogue.
And our sources, just Melville himself, these incredibly powerful final chapters, they really pack a punch.
They really do. And what's so gripping, I think, is how all those big themes, obsession, fate, humanity versus nature, just converge in this devastating climax.
Absolutely. It's all concentrated right there at the end. So if
Yeah.
you've ever, felt completely consumed by something or just been drawn to a really epic tragedy, this deep dive should hit home.
Our goal here is basically to unpack this incredible ending, look at the key moments, what they might mean, but without, getting bogged down in super heavy literary analysis.
Keep it focused on the drama, the human element.
Right. So let's start with chapter 129, The Cabin. That scene between Ahab and Pip. It's quite something, isn't it? Deeply affecting, but also kind of disturbing.
Oh, definitely. It's absolutely crucial because you see just how psychologically twisted Ahab has become. He tells Pip his innocence. Pip's essential goodness is too curing.
Too curing for his malady.
Wow, exactly. And he says this hunt, this obsession, that's his version of health. It's this complete inversion. Sickness is health to him now, which just perfectly shows the self-destructive core of his monomania. Melville nails it there.
And Pip, oh Pip, he offers to be Ahab's lost leg. It's just such a powerful, heartbreaking image of loyalty.
It really is. And it's more than just like simple loyalty, isn't it? It's Pip offering to complete him, to fill that void Ahab has. But Ahab's obsession has made him incapable of accepting that kind of genuine connection.
He sees the loyalty, though, acknowledges it.
He does, yeah. He calls it the fadeless fidelity of man.
Hmm.
But ultimately, he pushes Pip away, tells him to stay in the cabin. There is that flicker of tenderness, maybe,
Yeah.
that God forever bless thee, almost like he knows what's coming.
Yeah, a sense of finality. And then Pip, left alone, his reaction is so strange. He just sort of detaches from reality. What's going on there?
Well, alone in Ahab's space, surrounded by his things, Pip just slips. He descends into this hallucinatory state, imagining he's hosting admirals.
Right, a black cabin boy hosting white admirals, a total reversal.
Exactly. It's not just weirdness for weirdness' sake. It really underscores the psychological damage Ahab's causing, even to the innocent. It shows how fractured reality becomes under that kind of obsessive pressure. He's trying to process Ahab leaving, calling his name, imagining his footsteps.
Okay, moving to chapter 130, The Hat. The tension just ramps up immediately as they reach the spot where they expect to find Moby Dick. You can feel it.
Oh, Melville builds that atmosphere masterfully. The mood on the Pequod totally shifts. All the humor is gone, vanished. The crew moves like automatons, just obeying Ahab silently. Even Stubb is quiet.
Yeah, it's like their individual spirits are just snuffed out by Ahab's sheer will.
Completely suppressed. And Ahab himself, he's almost not human anymore. He's on deck constantly, day and night, won't sleep below. That slouched hat becomes this constant shadow.
A relentless presence.
And then there's that connection, that silent bond between Ahab and Fedallah, the Parsi. It's eerie. They barely speak, but there's this intense, almost mystical understanding between them. Like Fedallah really is his shadow, his fate made flesh.
And then the incident with the hat itself, the Seahawk, that feels loaded with meaning, doesn't it? More than just a bird stealing a hat.
Absolutely. Ahab's so determined to be the first to see the whale, he rigs up a special basket to get hoisted up the mast. He even makes Starbuck, the one who's questioned him, watch the rope.
Risky. Or pointed.
Definitely pointed. But then the hawk swoops down and snatches the hat right off his head. It echoes those old Roman omens, like Tarquin and the eagle. But here's the key difference. Unlike Tarquin, Ahab's hat isn't returned or replaced by something better. It's just gone, falls into the sea.
So a bad omen, irreversible loss.
That's how it feels. A really negative sign, no recovery.
Okay, chapter 131 brings that encounter with the Delight. What an ironic name for that ship.
Oh, the irony is brutal. The Delight is basically a wreck. You see its smashed whaleboat, a very visual reminder of Moby Dick's power. The captain is just hollowed out by grief.
And he tells that awful story about burying only one man.
Yeah, only one of 5. The others, he says, were buried before they died. Still sailing, but psychologically destroyed. Trapped on their own tomb, essentially. It's harrowing. A real glimpse of the cost of hunting the white whale.
And Ahab's response to this horror, it tells you everything about where his head is at.
No compassion at all. Instead, he just doubles down. He boasts about his own special harpoon, how it's tempered in blood and tempered by lightning. declares he'll hit Moby Dick right where it hurts.
He just dismisses the whole tragedy, even interrupts the burial service.
Exactly. Orders the Pequod to sail on, and think about the contrast. The Pequod has that coffin life buoy on board. Then, as they sail away, someone from the Delight shouts out, pointing at the Pequod, calling it a coffin.
Chilling. A prophecy, almost.
A very direct, foreboding cry, linking their fates.
Then, chapter 132, the symphony. Suddenly, there's this moment of intense beauty and calm. The sea, the sky. It's almost jarring after the Delight. Why this shift?
I think it's a crucial contrast Melville sets up. You had this stunning day, clear steel blue, gentle air, powerful sea, just profound natural beauty. And he slams that right up against Ahab's internal chaos, his close-coiled woe.
So nature's completely indifferent to his suffering.
Exactly. So nature is this immortal infancy, totally untouched by Ahab's agony. It really highlights the isolation of his obsession, makes it seem even more unnatural against this vast, beautiful backdrop.
And in that beautiful moment, Ahab seems to crack, just for a second. He sheds a tear.
He does. He's leaning with the side, sees his reflection sink, and it's just moved. That single tear, Melville says it's worth more than the whole Pacific. It's a flash of his humanity returning.
And it leads to that incredibly poignant talk with Starbuck.
Yes. Ahab starts reflecting. 40 years of wailing, but he's given up his family, his leg, his sanity, really. He sees his wife and child in Starbuck's eyes. A powerful reminder of the cost of this quest.
Starbuck pleads with him, right? Begs him to turn back, go home to Nantucket.
A really heartfelt plea. And Ahab, she feels it. He acknowledges those natural lovings and longings, but he feels driven. He says some nameless, inscrutable, unearthly thing is his master. He even questions his own free will. Is Ahab.
He feels like a puppet of fate.
Pretty much. He feels compelled. His line about being rust amid greenness, it's just despair. Starbuck can't reach him and retreats heartbroken. And then you get that image. Ahab and Fedallah side by side again, silently staring into the water. Bound together.
Okay, so chapter 133, the chase first day. The wait is finally over. Ahab seems to almost smell Moby Dick.
His senses are incredibly heightened. He's certain a whale is near, just based on the feel of the air almost. Then daybreak, a hump like a snow hill. There he is.
And Ahab immediately claims the sighting, the doubloon. It's all about him.
Totally possessive. His personal reward and the obsessive hunt are completely fused.
So the boats go down, Ahab leads. And initially, Moby Dick seems calm, serene even. Why that deceptive start?
Yeah, Melville describes him gliding through this calm sea with gentle joyousness. It's a brilliant dramatic touch. Sets up this stark contrast with the violence that's about to explode. A reminder that nature's power can be hidden beneath a calm surface, lulls them into a false sense.
And then, boom, that calm is shattered.
Brutally. Moby Dick turns lightning fast, attacks Ahab's boat, crushes it in his jaws. Ahab's thrown into the water, screaming for the ship.
Terrifying.
The Pequod has the sail between them to save him. The other boats pick him up. He's physically hammered, but mentally. His obsession is completely untouched. First thing he does is order the chase to resume. Unbelievable resolve.
And they just keep going. All day. Ahab's constantly watching, gets himself hoisted up the mast again. Even with his boat wrecked, he just shrugs off any bad sign.
Yeah, he dismisses Starbuck's concerns about omens, Stubbs' attempts at humor. He's becoming more isolated, declaring he's driven by something beyond human understanding, and he renews that promise of the doubloon, but only for the day the whale dies, binding the crew to his fatal quest with gold.
On to chapter 134, the chase second day. The hunt resumes. Melville notes the Nantucketer's skill in tracking, right?
He does, yeah. Emphasizes how these experienced whalers just read the ocean, anticipate the whale's path almost instinctively. They're masters of their craft.
And the crew, they're caught up in the excitement.
Oh, yeah. The intensity of the chase, the promise of that doubloon. It creates this fever pitch. Fears are maybe pushed aside for the moment. They're basically just extensions of Ahab's will now.
And Moby Dick breaches, a huge display of power. And the boats go down again, Ahab leading, but this day turns into pure chaos.
Utter chaos. Moby Dick attacks furiously. The harpoon lines get tangled. Stubbs and Flask's boats are nearly destroyed. Then that incredible image, the whale breaching right under Ahab's boat, sending it flying. Sheer power.
And Ahab gets hurt this time.
His ivory leg is snapped. Broken. A real physical sign of the damage this obsession is doing to him. But even then, defiant. Still obsessed.
But then the really horrifying moment, Fedallah is gone, vanished. What does that mean?
It's huge. Stubb figures it out grimly that Fedallah must have gotten tangled in Ahab's harpoon line and dragged down. It's the first part of the Parsi's prophecy coming true, directly and terrifyingly.
How does Ahab react?
He's deeply distressed, not just by Fedallah's death, but by losing his special harpoon, too. It's like a break in the chain of his supposed destiny. And seeing this, seeing the prophecy starting to unfold, Starbuck makes one last, absolutely desperate plea. Ahab, Moby Dick seeks thee not. It is thou that madly seekest him.
But Ahab won't hear it. He calls himself the Fates' lieutenant. He twists everything to fit his narrative.
Completely. He reinterprets the omens, the prophecy. He insists Fedallah had to die first, but will reappear before Ahab himself dies. It's pure, dangerous delusion, making fate serve his obsession. And while the carpenter makes him a new leg, Ahab's already looking ahead, planning the next day's attack. Utterly fixated.
Which brings us to chapter 135, the chase, third day, the final showdown. Dawn breaks. Ahab's mind is still racing.
Yeah, he has this interesting reflection about feeling versus thinking. He aligns himself with the wind, relentless, unthinking power. Then comes this grim realization. He's actually overshot Moby Dick. The whale is now behind them, hunting him.
The hunter becomes the hunted. And Starbuck. He's torn apart inside.
Absolutely torn. Duty to Ahab versus his fear of God, his sense of impending doom. It's agonizing for him.
Then the final sighting. 3 simultaneous cries from the mastheads. Ahab knows this is it. Forehead to forehead.
The ultimate confrontation. He takes this last look at the sea, almost nostalgic, remembering his youth. Then a grim farewell to the masthead. Still muttering about the Parsi's prophecy, like he's starting to grasp it, but still resisting.
He comes down to the deck for the final attack, and he has that moment with Starbuck, a farewell.
A really poignant moment. Stand close to me, Starbuck. Let me look into a human eye. A brief acknowledgement of their shared humanity, the danger, almost an apology. Maybe.
Then the sharks appear, circling Ahab's boat. Can't get a clearer omen than that.
Unmistakable. Starbuck sees it, filled with dread. Then the whale sounds, disappears, and erupts back up violently.
Attacks the other boats again.
But leaves Ahab strangely untouched for a moment. And then the absolute horror. The confirmation of the prophecy, Fedallah's dead body, lashed to the whale's back by the very lines Ahab threw, his eyes fixed on Ahab.
Oh, God. Just imagine seeing that.
Unimaginable. Ahab is stunned. He finally sees it. The prophecy is coming true, exactly as foretold, but in this horrifying way.
He orders the others back to the ship to face it alone.
Yes, to the ship, the boats. Away. Starbuck cries out one last time. Oh, Ahab, see? Moby Dick seeks thee not. But it's too late.
Yeah.
Ahab is consumed.
He goes after the whale, even as sharks are biting his oars.
A grotesque final image of his struggle. He throws the harpoon, it hits, but the line, it whips around his own neck.
And pulls him under.
Drags him instantly out of the boat and into the sea. The line snaps. He's gone.
And then the Pequod itself.
Moby Dick turns on the ship, rams it, starts to sink fast. Chaos.
Those final images are just burned into your memory.
Absolutely unforgettable. Tashtego's still trying to nail Ahab's flag to the mast as the ship goes down. And that Skyhawk gets tangled in the flag.
And goes down with the ship, man and nature sinking together.
A truly apocalyptic ending. Total annihilation. The vortex closes over everything.
Until the epilogue, which reveals one survivor, Ishmael, our narrator. How did he survive that vortex?
He explains he'd become Ahab's bowsman after Fedallah vanished. On that last day, he was thrown clear from the boat during the chaos. He got sucked towards the vortex of the sinking ship, which seemed certain death. But Queequeg's coffin, the one made into a life buoy, shot back up from the depths right at the center of the disappearing vortex. He grabbed onto it. Death becomes life.
Incredible symbolism.
Absolutely. He floats for a day and a night, alone on the vast ocean, clinging to this coffin buoy, and then he's rescued by the Rachel.
The ship that was searching for its own lost children.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And all she finds is Ishmael, another orphan adrift.
Wow. So this whole devastating ending leaves us with, well, a lot to think about, doesn't it?
It really does. I mean, the destructive power of obsession, unchecked obsession that's inescapable. You see the ruin it brings, not just to Ahab, but everyone around him.
And that whole question of fate versus free will. How much was Ahab doomed? How much did he choose?
It's complex, isn't it? Melville leaves it ambiguous. How much is he driven by fate? How much by his own choices? And then there's the stark indifference of nature. Moby Dick isn't evil, really. He's just a whale, a force of nature.
Right. Nature doesn't care about human dramas. And finally, I guess, the impact of loss, the search for meaning. Ishmael survives to tell the tale.
That survival is key. Ishmael, the orphan, the storyteller, carrying the weight of that loss and trying to make sense of it.
Which leaves us maybe with this thought for you, the listener, in your own life, your own pursuits. How do you strike that balance between ambition, passion, and, well, self-awareness?
Yeah, how do you recognize that point where a deep dive, so to speak, might tip over into becoming a destructive obsession?
And what does Ishmael's survival, this orphan found by a searching ship, tell us about why we tell stories? About remembrance, especially when faced with just overwhelming loss.
These are huge questions. They're why Moby Dick still resonates so powerfully. It definitely encourages you to maybe revisit the book or check out other works by Melville to explore these ideas even further.